Okay, so this podcast is going to talk about survival knives. Haven't touched on them too much yet, if at all. I'd really like it if some more of you knuckle draggers clicked on the subscribe or like buttons every once in a while. I know it's a lot of frickin' work, but it would really mean a lot if you did. So just click the buttons. Just do it. It's not that big of a deal, guys. Just click on the button. Listen, this survival knife topic, I'm probably gonna hurt a couple feelings here because I know how loyal some people are to different kinds of knives. And the thing you got to keep in mind when you're talking about a survival knife is it has to be rugged. It has to be able to withstand the abuse. You're gonna use it for so much stuff. I'm going to attempt to come at this from a fair perspective, talking about different kinds of knives. But in all honesty, there's only really one type of survival knife in my head. And to go even further, there's really only one brand that I would put my stock into. However, they're not supporting the podcast, so I'm not going to mention the name. I don't want to influence a knife purchase. I'm just trying to steer people in the right direction if they're new to this. Unfortunately, there's one design that most people get, and it's not the proper knife for survival. It's not the proper knife for a 3-day get home bag. It's not the proper knife to take the kids out camping overnight. It's not a good knife to take in the field, regardless of how it looks and how it's packaged and what's on the box and who's selling it to you. I'm going to try to talk you out of buying lockback and lock blade knives for survival. You know, the fold and click into place, and then you got to hit the button or hit the slide or something like that to close it again and put it in that cool little leather pouch on your belt. No, I'm going to tell you guys right now, those things do not hold up. If you're in the field for a week, and I mean you're really roughing it, not glamping, not where everybody takes showers in the big outhouse, with the running water and toilets and stuff. I'm talking about real camping, real survival, real skinning your own animals, whatever you hunt, real starting to chop wood and make wood chips to start a fire, real survival, real camping. Maybe an older style buck knife would have done it, but I don't think you'd have gotten 2 or 3 camping trips out of it. What I'm talking about is the full tang knives. And if you don't know what full tang is where the construction of the blade extends all the way through the handle. It's a heavier knife, but it feels heavier. It feels more solid. It feels like it can take a beating. There is also a partial tang knife if it's got a really big handle on it, but I put them right up there with the folding knives. I don't like the partial tang knives. I have one knife on my pack, and it's really just to cut string and stuff. It's not anything to do with survival. It's a good knife, but I don't consider it a survival knife. It's just a convenience thing. I would never put my entire time in the field, I would never trust a folding blade knife. That's why there's at least 2 full tang knives in my pack, and then I have the one on the strap. There is one folding knife. But I would highly, highly, highly recommend, I would rather have a cheaper full tang knife in the field than a really expensive folding blade knife, because they just don't hold up. If they get dirty, they don't operate right. If you break the locking mechanism, which can happen, it's happened. I've seen it happen on a good buck knife, one of my own actually. Those old buck knives, they built them things for war. They were made that good, and I've seen them break. That's one thing, you're never going to break something like that on a full. You will never affect the operation of a full tang knife unless you break the blade. And man, if you're breaking blades, you're up to some weird shit. So, like I said, a fixed blade survival knife, camping knife, whatever the hell you want to call it, hunting knife, your main advantages are going to be strength and durability. They don't have any moving parts. They're fixed blades. It is fixed into the handle, and they can handle heavy tasks like prying, chopping wood, without a risk of failure, unless it's just a really, really cheap knife. Like one of those Temu knives where it's like $3 for an 8-inch blade. That's not going to do it. You're better off with the folding knife at that point. But listen, this is one of those, I don't tell you to spend a lot of money on stuff for building these kits and these packs and stuff, but a knife is another one of those things where I'm going to tell you, you don't got to spend a ton of money, but spend a little extra money. And if you want a folding knife on your pack like I have, that's fine, but you should have a good full tang knife in there, a good drop point knife. If you don't know what that is, I don't have video on here, so look it up. But it should be a drop point full tang knife. They're so versatile. They are so versatile. The only disadvantages to them, and really the only disadvantages, is the weight and size. It's a heavier knife and it's a bulkier knife than the folding knife. Obviously, you're having the space, cutting in half the space of the knife when you fold it shut. So it is a longer knife, and it takes a different kind of storage. If you have it in your pack or if you're wearing it on your belt, it's going to be hanging down your leg a little bit. The cost, I will tell you, a high quality full tang steel knife. If you want a high quality one, it is going to be more expensive. Now, I'm telling you, you can get a good one that I would be satisfied with and I would trust for $50. So I don't know how much you want to spend on a knife like that. I don't know what your budget's looking like. But again, this is going to be one of those times when I would tell you, take your time, save the money if you don't have it right now. And when you have the $50, go get a better knife. The Gerber full tang knives are good. And I'm not getting paid for this, so just trust me on it. Let's just do this. The two that I would recommend for moderate price range would be a Gerber or a Cold Steel, a Tano Cold Steel. So you can go from there. I don't know. I don't really know any of the other names because I don't trust a lot of them. I only trust the ones that I've carried myself. And those are two that I've carried, and those are two that I would trust. Now, you got another kind of, you got another kind of knife that goes into the fold, the multi-tools, the multipliers. We used to call them cool tools. Now, I'm going to tell you, those blades don't hold up to shit. Those blades, you got... the thing, you talk about Swiss Army knife, that thing's got pliers, it's got a fish scaler on it, it's got a hook remover on it, it's got some weird kind of a file on it that I don't know what the hell you would file with it, maybe your fingernails. They got the scissors. I mean, man, come on, if you can't handle a knife to cut a fishing line. But cool tools are nice. If you're going to get a cool tool, and I'm going to give you a really good piece of advice here, don't buy the black ones. Always buy the silver ones. Do not buy a black one. Now, everything I carry is subdued. I don't carry anything that would reflect light, except if I was going to have a cool tool in the field, I would get a silver one. Reason being, you drop that thing at night, it's gone. They're flat black. You can shine a light right on it, and you won't even see it if you're, moving or it gets trampled on or anything like that. I've lost at least 2 or 3 of those things, and I'm talking about the good ones with the blasting cap crimper on them and stuff. You drop that thing, it's gone. Now, the last one I actually had on a lanyard. I can't tell you how many times that lanyard saved it. So if you're going to get one, that's what I'm getting at. If you're going to get a multiplier, use the little lanyard. It's that little thing that hooks up, like the little thing that opens up like a knife, but it's just like an arm with an eye on the end of it, like a circle on the end of it. That's what that's for, to attach a lanyard. If you're going to attach a lanyard, use 550 cord or something that isn't going to tear. They do, when you lose them, they're gone. And that's a lot of money to lose, because I think the one that I had with the blasting cap crimper years ago, I think I paid about $84 on them. On that one with the blasting cap. I can't even imagine what it would cost now. So it's not a survival knife by any chance. Should you ever just go running out into the woods with that, and nothing else? That is not a survival knife. It's just the tool. That's all it is. Just like in my mind, all the folding knife blades are just tools. It's not a survival knife. I know people like the folding blade knives. I know people like them because they sit in those cool belt pouches the way they are. I know people are big fans of them, and I'm sorry if you like those knives and that's all you want to take into the field with you, that's fine. But you know how hard it is to use half a knife with no handle and just a blade that's broken off of the handle, or when the locking mechanism breaks, you're going to cut the shit out of yourself if you don't cut a finger off when you close that thing on your finger. I keep my knives very sharp. If that thing would close on you, if you had one of those at the sharpness I keep my knives, it would cut down the bone. So it's a tool. It's not a survival knife, and I don't consider it a rugged tool. A quick synopsis of a folding knife is they have a pivot allowing the blade to fold into the handle. That's the best way to think of it. They have different kinds of locking mechanisms. You got a lock back, frame lock, and then you got the axis compression lock style. This is going to be really hard to explain without pictures, so just listen to me on it. Lock back, if you know what the old buck knives are, that's a lock back. That's when you push the button down in the middle of the back and it closes the blade into the handle. The liner lock frame lock is the one you push over to the side. Like you use your thumb and you push it over to the side and then the blade passes by it. The axis compression lock, there's a lot going on there. I would never own one. They break too easily, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Out of the three of them, I personally think the liner locks are the best. I think it's a better locking mechanism than even the lock back. You do have a few advantages, like we talked about. You can fold it in half. You stick it in your pocket, you stick it in a pouch. I don't give a shit where you stick it, but they're easy to carry like that. I would never trust my life on that locking mechanism. Too many of them are broken. I've seen too many knives break on them. They're very lightweight, so if you're just a day hiker and you're going out for a hike, even though if I go out for a hike, I'm going to tell you something, I'm packed for 3 days. You never know what's going to happen. But if you're just going out for to walk around a park, it would be fine for that. That's as far as I would say that knife weighs out for survival. If you're going to take a walk around a baseball field or something, I would never trust it in the field as a survival knife. No lock back knife for a survival knife. We talked about the multi-tool, the cool tools before. My favorite parts of the cool tool is it has a can opener, and if you take the time to learn, and a screwdriver, of course, and if you take the time to learn how to use it, it does have a type of a P38 can opener, and I know how to do it, and it's still a bitch, but it's there if you need it. So that's one thing. If you know how to open a can of food with a big full tang knife, I think it's easier, honestly. I mean, if you don't know how, you're probably going to cut your hand off if you try it. But I had a multi-tool for many years when I was doing electrical work, and it served its purpose. I would have never taken it into the field, though. I wouldn't even take it fishing. I just don't trust them in the field. I'm going to say it again, full tang knife all the way. A few of the other disadvantages to the locking back knives, okay? And I know I probably said it before. I don't know. I'm not paying attention to what I'm saying half the time. If they're dirty, it's going to affect the operation. If you got sand in there, it's going to affect the operation. You can get a dirt or a sand buildup to a point of failure in a locking back knife. They're lower strength. It's just there's moving parts on them. You know, the more parts that move them, the more chance for breaking. You cannot use them for chopping or what's that word? Batoning, heavy batoning, splitting wood. You can do it with a full tang knife if you know how to do it. I would never try to do it with a locking back knife. You have a maintenance factor here. You have to clean it, especially out in the field. If it gets rusty, it's going to affect the operation of it. So now you got to oil it if you're out in the field on top of keeping it clean. And anyone in the service knows if you oil something, it will attract dirt. So yeah, just get a full tang knife. It's just not worth it. The blades on the knives, the shape of the blade, the components of the blade are something to take into consideration. Tanto style knives are, I really like Tanto style knives. They have the strongest tip, or one of the strongest tips on them. They really don't break under pressure. They're very hard to break. I've seen people take the same knife and just drive it through $half over and over and over again. Didn't dull it, didn't break the tip. They're very good. And I'm going to tell you something else. It's really good for working with materials like leather or cutting cordage. It takes a beating. A Tanto style blade holds its blade, and the tip is incredibly strong. It's ridiculously strong. They're actually good for self-defense. I personally think if somebody pulls a knife, I'm going to pull a gun. I just don't like the idea of a knife fight. Nobody wins in a knife fight. I don't care how good you are. You're going to get, even if you won the fight, you probably got stabbed at least once and cut a couple times, sliced a couple times. There's no winners. But if I had to use a knife for a knife fight, I would probably take a Tanto style blade. If you can't picture it in your head, imagine like a really short Japanese sword, like a samurai sword. The blade would probably be about 6 to 8 inches long on it. They're usually black, non-reflective black. I don't know that I've ever seen a chrome-bladed Tanto-style knife. Several manufacturers of them. You don't assume because of the name it's the best one, and don't assume because of the price it's the best one. Do your homework, read the reviews, go on Amazon or whatever you want to, but read the reviews. You can get a really good Tanto style knife for, like I said before, about $50. They're hard to prepare food with because of the slight curvature of the blade. Sometimes it makes it less effective for slicing food, like fine slicing meat and vegetables. They are harder to sharpen. If you don't know what you're doing, you could probably mess up the blade. So that's a pretty good reason not to buy one, or just learn how to sharpen a damn knife. You should not be taking a knife into the field, putting a kit together for 3 days or more, or your bug out bag or your, inch bag. You got to have a knife sharpener in there somewhere, some kind of a knife sharpener. So just keep it sharp. A dull knife is like a car with flat tires. Keep your knife sharp. Keep it oiled so it doesn't rust on you. You're going to find out how cheap the steel is real quick if that thing rusts on you. You got a cheap. I like a Sangen 440 steel. Doesn't rust. Holds a blade like nobody's business. But that's up to you. You can do the research and figure out what kind of blade you want and how much you want to spend. The two things you're spending on when you buy a good knife is the name and the quality of the steel. It doesn't. I personally don't think the shape of the blade or, I don't think that really comes into what do you want to call it, consideration when they price the blades out. The quality of the steel is huge, and the name. You buy a really expensive knife, you're going to pay for it, but you can get a better quality knife. Believe it or not, you can actually, and I hate to mention a Blue Demon, you can actually get a good Gerber knife at Walmart. So I'm stepping off point there, and I'm not keeping names out, but I'm trying to save you some money and trying to get you to at least get something that you can trust. The drop point blades it's the shape of the tip. It's a different kind of a knife. I'm sorry, we're going on to the next type of knife. It has a convex curve from the spine of the tip. It's probably the most popular style survival knife, and I think it's popular more because, like, you can't carve game. You can, but it's very difficult to carve game. Skinning and cut up game and cut up meat or fish or something like that with a Tanto style knife. A drop point knife is a lot easier to use for batoning wood, preparing food, and I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to believe this, but if you got a good knife and you got a good blade on it and you haven't over sharpened it, which I'm going to try to remember to talk about here while you don't do that. But if you have a good knife, you can go chop wood with it and wipe it off and start preparing meat or fish or something like it. You're not going to dull the blade chopping wood with it, not right away if you just do it once. A cheap blade knife, a really cheap steel blade knife, you're not even going to be able to chop all your wood. You're not going to be able to baton all your wood. You're going to mess up that blade. That's just the way it is. I know it's a lot of money to spend on stuff, but if you're going to get a knife, that's one of the things I would say to spend the money on. I really would. Now, the other reason, the drop point knife, we've moved on from the Tanto style. The other reason a drop point knife is maybe the best one for a beginner is because they're by far the easiest to sharpen. So if you're going to have to buy a lesser quality knife, you're going to have to sharpen it more, which is it's a ratio. It's what you spend for the steel is going to decide how much you have to sharpen that knife. And I'm fanatical about keeping my blades like shave. You can shave with my knives. Drop point knife is probably the easiest one to shave out of any knife you look at as far as survival goes. It does have more of a blunt tip, so it's not going to break on you either. It's the tip should stay intact. One of the problems with the drop point knife is they're not really good at penetration. Like if you got to fight a bear, pierce stab a bear. I don't know what the hell you want to put it on, but it's not really good for doing leather work or cutting into thick tarps, punching through thick tarps, or like I said, stabbing a grizzly bear if it's attacking you. Which, if you have done that, I'd really like to hear about that. By the way, I'd love to hear your story about how you took on a grizzly bear. The last thing I'll say about the drop point knife is it's not like specialized. It performs a lot of tasks good, but it doesn't really excel at anything. So the thing to keep in mind is if you're going to be buying a lesser quality steel knife, which, I'm not banging on Gerbers, but it's not the greatest steel. You're going to have to sharpen them more probably. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with sharpening a knife. I find it to be like Zen time, just like cleaning guns. That's my Zen time. That's my happy place. Sharpening knives and cleaning guns. And that's not like a psychopath, thing. It's something I'm very good at. And it just, it's like, what do they say? Woosah or whatever the hell these freaking hippies say. But that's my Zen time. Now, there is also, what do you call it? Like a clip point knife. They have the clip spine near the tip. It creates a sharper, supposedly more controllable point. I don't think so. I don't like it. They're not. You can't baton wood with them. And again, if you don't know, batoning wood is when you're chopping wood. Like you start the knife into the wood. You like slice down real fast when it does that thunk, and your knife gets stuck in it. And then you use another piece of wood. Don't use a rock. I swear to God, if I ever see anybody do that again. But you use another piece of wood to hit your blade where it's protruding out the end of the piece of wood to use your full tang knife to chop a piece of wood. So when you see those freaking Rambo knives with the jagged edge on them and stuff, leave it on the shelf. Don't get it. I'm going to tell you right now, just stay away from that shit. It's all for look. It has no... I just don't like... I don't like them. They're a weaker blade because they're the serrated blades. You don't need that. If you do need a serrated blade knife, just get a serrated blade knife and don't make it your only knife. So you don't want a dual-purpose knife, the right tool for the right job. The Bowie knives, I got nothing against them, but they're just so damn big, and they're heavy. They are excellent for chopping and batoning wood and doing, like, chores around your campsite. Great knife for that. I wouldn't wear it. I wouldn't try to use it for self-defense. I would consider it a tool just like I'd consider a hammer or a pair of pliers a tool. I've already talked about multi-tool survival. You know, it's nice to have the pliers and the screwdriver and all that happy shit, but that shit breaks. It will break. There's too many moving parts. Way too many moving parts. So I don't carry them anymore. I won't have anything to do with them anymore. I just don't need them. Now, what I was talking about earlier with the sharpening a blade, you usually can't really see it with the naked eye, but if you don't know what you're doing about when you sharpen a blade and you don't have that blade at the right angle, what you're going to do is you're going to curl the blade. And you really can't see it with the naked eye so much, but the thing is you're getting that edge of that knife way too thin. You're making it weak. Just think of it like it's another weak point on the blade because you're making it too thin, so you can dull it too fast. If you've got that point so long and so thin, it's like, think of it more like a piece of paper than a piece of cardboard, because you sharpen that at the wrong edge and you have too much of a sharp edge on it now. That's why the really, really good knives, when you see them, they only have about 1/4 of an inch. If it's a blackened knife, like blued knife, like a gun bluing, you'll only see like maybe 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch of the actual blade that's not blued, because that's all you want to sharpen. And you got to have the right angle. And get a couple cheap knives to practice. You don't want to screw up a good knife. So many people, they have a knife with a good blade and they get a sharpening set with the bars and the angles on them and all that happy crap, and they think they got to sharpen their good knife and it's already got a good blade, and they end up ruining the blade, and it pisses me off. So if you want to get a really good sharpening set, get one and practice on cheap knives. Do not practice on a good knife. It just makes no sense. The practice is worth it. You really got to practice. If you have a whetstone, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to screw up the blade. I like the ceramic stuff for sharpening knives, but it's a matter of preference. You got to practice, and you don't want to be running around with a pack, like a box in your 3-day bag with all these different sharpening stones and oil and ceramic rods and a block to tighten to hold the blade and all that happy crap. It's absolutely ridiculous. So just trust me when I tell you, just get a nice ceramic sharpener for an emergency, and don't sharpen your damn knife until it needs to be sharpened. Because I've made it a point to not fix people's knives anymore. I'm so sick of people ruining their knives. Just don't do it. Just, if it's sharp, you don't need to put a blade on it. So we're going to review real quick because I'm still convalescing, let's say. I don't have a lot of time to do this. I really got to get into a more comfortable position. Fixed blade, full tang, definitely. It's good for heavy work. It's good for durability. It's heavier and it's less portable, but who cares if you're out in the middle of the frickin' woods? Then you got your folding knife. Everyday carry, possibly. It's more lightweight. They are usually more lightweight. Problem is the strength. It's not I don't even consider it an EDC knife myself. A lot of people do. I would rather have a smaller fixed blade knife than a bigger folding knife. How's that? Does that sum it up right? Then you have the Tanto style, piercing tough materials. It's not good for preparing meat or fruits and vegetables, and they're a bitch to sharpen. However, I prefer a Tanto for my survival knife. I have probably the best Tanto knife I've ever seen. And again, that is my preference. That is my recommendation. I'm not going to give you a brand name for that Tanto. I'm just telling you that's the way I would recommend to go. If you're not going to go Tanto, you can go drop point. It's so much easier to sharpen if you have to sharpen it. And you can get a cheaper knife and you can sharpen it. All I'm saying is if you're going to spend the money on a knife, get a knife you're going to have for a long time. Get a knife that's not going to rust on you because you got a little bit of water on it. even if it's not supposed to rust, even if it doesn't rust, even if it says it won't rust, put a little bit of gun oil on the blade. And, you know, if you have a leather sheath, especially put a little bit of oil on it. I prefer a Kydex sheath. So just trust me on it. Again, if you're going to sharpen a knife, practice it. Get some cheap knives and sharpen cheap knives. Now, I'm not saying go out to your kitchen and get a butter knife out and sharpen it, because that's not the right steel. That's not even close to the kind of steel you're going to have on a survival knife. And if you do, you didn't buy a survival knife. You got a big, pointy, long kitchen knife is what you got, if it's that same steel, especially if it's electroplated. If I see, man, when I see shiny shit, I get pissed. There's no place in the woods for something like that. So just remember what I said. Get a knife you're comfortable with. Practice sharpening knives with cheap knives. Don't practice on a good knife. It's really stupid. It's really stupid to practice on a knife that has a good blade already. And get something you're comfortable with. Get something you feel you can carry, that you can either wear on your hip or you can keep in your pack. Or, you know, you got to keep in mind, though, when you carry this, it's a concealed weapon depending on what kind of knife it is and where you have it in your car and on your person. So keep that in mind. You can't just be strapping some big pig sticker on your leg and going into the bank or something. That's not going to work, guys. So take all this into consideration. Don't practice. You know, the big things to take away from this is you don't need a knife that's 3 miles long. You don't need a knife that has like a saw on the back of it. All you're doing is weakening the blade, because you're changing the structure of the blade. You don't need a knife that folds for a survival knife. You need a good full tang knife, and I don't even want to see any of that half tang shit. You want a good full tang knife for a survival knife. If you have a folding knife, keep in mind you're going to have to clean it. You're going to use probably brushes out of your gun cleaning kit to keep that damn thing clean so you can open it and close it. And if you've never had one on the beach, you don't know what I'm talking about. Cool tools, multi-tools, and folding blade knives on the beach, they shouldn't be allowed. You're going to it messes up the blade. Unless you have a lot of air pressure, one of those blowers, you're never going to get the sand out of it, and it's going to just screw up the operation of the knife. See, you don't gotta mess with that with the full tang knife. That's not a problem with the full tang knife. So remember what I said. I'll try probably to cut another podcast on Saturday or Sunday. Right now I got to go convalesce. So watch your six and peace out.